Money, Brazil, fun, take stuff to Europe. Let's do it. I'm now packed up with a ton of cocaine on. This is ghetto. The slums in Brazil are vicious. I was now in the worst place in South America. If it means killing somebody, then that's the attitude that you have to have. I thought of my dad, and how in God's name am I going to tell him?
From Wondery, this is Locked Up Abroad. I'm your host, Jim Clementi. Today we bring you São Paulo Deathtrap. It's Los Angeles, 1993. Brendan Cosso is a 23-year-old, carefree party guy living the high life, running the VIP room at one of the hottest clubs in Hollywood. The Roxbury caters to the A-list celebrity crowd, and Brendan is at the center of it all. He and his best friends, Sebastian, Julio, and Guy, are on top of the world. Young, fun, and unstoppable. Until John, a wealthy businessman who frequents the clubs, offers Brendan $50,000 to go to Brazil and pick up a package. He even cuts Brendan's friends into the deal. 5 days in São Paulo, all expenses paid. What could possibly go wrong?
When I was 23, my life was pretty much a party. It was that carefree, who cares, nothing makes a difference. What is happening right now is what we're going to worry about, which was the parties and having fun, and work wasn't really that much of the equation. The club promoters of those times would notice the go-getters and the guys that would hustle. And we hustled it so well that we ended up running the VIP rooms for one of the best clubs actually in Hollywood at that time, which was the Roxbury. Loved it. We were running with the in crowd and had all these celebrities always around. It was very exciting. You feel like a king. The $500 bottle of champagne, the $1,000 to sit in the booth, and the girls. You'd obviously let the girls in. If the guys weren't on the VIP list, they have no chance of ever getting in. But you obviously let the pretty girls in because that's good for business. It was the A-list of Hollywood. There were drugs around in the club scene. Cocaine was the drug of choice. I never took cocaine or used it because of the effect that it has on people. It's the devil. It takes your soul. My group of friends, we were young, fun, we were unstoppable, and we were on top of the world at that time. Sebastian was good with the ladies. Julio was the ugly duckling of the crowd. We used to make a lot of fun of him. Guy was the funny guy that always cracking jokes. I was more the leader in the pack than the follower. We felt we were bulletproof at that time, that we could do anything, and that was pretty much, there was no consequence to anything. One day we were approached by a gentleman that had a proposition. My first impression of John, well-dressed, well-groomed, flashy. He was more than just a businessman. I sat with him and the offer was put on the table. Would you think about making some extra money? One of those things, he just may have seen something in us that we were wild and crazy enough, and he just came with the offer. We'll pay for you to go to Brazil, stay there for a few days, have fun, you pick up a package, and you'll take it to Hungary. Just get it and take it, and you're good to go. What kind of money? 50 grand, a lot of money. Let's do it, Brazil. The hottest girls in the world. Didn't think of the consequence. Drugs didn't factor in. He could have said it 100 times, I probably wouldn't have heard it. I'm getting $50,000 for this, and I thought that I may need a little help. I asked John if I could take some friends, and he said he'd pay them $5,000 apiece. Could I find anybody? And I said yes.
We got on a plane, we take a little bit of cocaine to Europe, drop it off, and then it's playtime. One flight, $5,000.
They're all adults and they can all make their own decisions.
We in?
And it was pretty much yes.
Okay, I'm in.
Let's do it. Awesome, let's go.
Didn't realize for 1 minute that this decision was going to change my entire life. Before I went away, I called my father and told him I was going to be in San Diego doing construction. And that's it.
What's wrong?
Yeah, I felt really bad lying to him. Growing up, I had a really good relationship with my dad. I was scared as hell of my dad. Very authoritarian, very, very strong Italian attorney. Very, very straight and narrow. Having a father as an attorney, you know what's right and wrong. But I went ahead and did it anyways. It felt really cool, like I was like I'm going somewhere. It was not the, oh my God, look what we're going to do. It was, we're going to Brazil. We're going on a trip and a vacation, and the exporting of illegal material wasn't really part of it. First thing getting out of the airport was the smells, the scent of Brazil. A mixture of alcohol burning cars, jet fuel, tropical weather, gasoline, fumes, pollution. I can still smell it to this day. And being away, being out of the country, being not where my parents were, feeling like we're the kings. The hotel was ready for us when we got there. It was a little bit different than what I've been used to seeing hotels. It was more of an apartment. We got up to the top floor to see what the city looked like, and there was a pool and a 360-degree view of São Paulo. There were buildings as far as the eye can see. It was the most intense feeling to be in a new place in a different country. It was exciting. I enjoyed it. I felt confident that everything was okay. It seemed to be all going as they planned it for us. The thought of what was coming next didn't really... We were more concerned about where we were going to go and trying to meet girls and trying to have fun. We were waiting around for a little while, and
John, come on in.
Hey, man.
How's it going?
Hey, guys.
John showed up.
It's awesome. Nice place. Show you off to.
Me and him then went down to a corner bakery, and he kind of explained a little bit of what's going to happen over the next day or so. He gave me a wad of money, and pretty much said, go have fun with your friends, go do what you guys want to do, and we'll be back in touch. Went back to the hotel with this feeling of wow, a wad of money in your pocket. You're in Brazil, the country that never sleeps, and the parties and the beautiful women everywhere. And I said,
Let's go and have some fun, guys.
the first night we were there, we were noticed the moment we walked in there. It's almost like wearing bright orange suits because of the way we were dressed and speaking English. It drew a crowd of people to us. I don't have a problem approaching people, so went out on the dance floor and started dancing and having fun, and pretty soon that just joined into more people and trying to speak Portuguese and dancing and meeting girls and having a real good time. I guess you could say the rock star lifestyle. The nightclub, the party, and not even thinking about what tomorrow was gonna bring. It was living that moment. Third day, John showed up at the hotel
We're leaving here.
and asked us to get all of our stuff.
We're going down to Santos.
Where's Santos?
It's at the beach.
What?
I'm gonna take you guys down there right now. Come on, move!
I got a little bit suspicious and a little nervous that he was moving us somewhere. It was such a quick thing. Showed up, let's go. Didn't really have any time to ask him why. To do is just follow the rules. Don't ask questions, just do what you're told. Things just seemed different. It wasn't the simple go to Brazil, go to the hotel, have some fun, leave to Europe. We didn't have control. I didn't have control of the situation. And it struck me as odd as to why he'd be taking us somewhere else. It made me nervous. I'm sure they had somebody there watching us. It was 2 days before we were due to fly out, and I felt like the fun part was over. We couldn't sit and speak about it because it's something that you don't want to sit there and talk about. The last thing you want to do is start thinking about your fears at that point in time because, and this is more of a subconscious thing, I believe, that we're now there. We cannot back out of this. We all know why we're there. And sooner or later, it's going to become a reality. The next day, John showed up to the hotel and told us to gather our things that we're going back to São Paulo. And we're back in the original hotel. A few hours later, John came in with the duffel bag.
Tomorrow you fly out. Tomorrow. Okay?
Get the stuff separated, packed up.
You're gonna need to be sharp.
And he left. Judging by the size of the duffel bag, you could tell there was quite a bit of dope. When I opened this thing up and saw the amount of cocaine in there, it became a huge reality what we're gonna do. It's no longer, here's a little bit of money, go out and have fun. You kind of smack into the wall and there's now a real strong realization of what we were about to do. The first thing is, you know, run, get out of here. This is crazy. Dealing with drug traffickers, you don't just take their money, let them pay for you to go places, and then all of a sudden bail out of the deal. Flipping this thing over onto the bed, it was like a never-ending waterfall of drugs. One brick after the doom, boom, onto the bed, and it bounced out and just created this lump of bricks. I'm thinking to myself, how in God's name am I gonna get this stuff packaged up and put onto us? Sebastian, Julio and Guy, they basically left me there alone. I had to cut it, make it more of a powder to package it into small bags. I didn't want to have kilos of cocaine sitting around for hours, so I tried to complete what I needed to do as quick as possible. As time progressed, I could start feeling myself being more jittery and shaky and sweating. My heart racing. I was in a room with a bunch of cocaine, feeling a type of cocaine high. When I finished packing it up, there was a huge sense of relief. But I literally was wired for a few hours. I was going 1,000 miles an hour. It took a little bit of time for me to finally bring myself down to a level where I could think. What were you thinking? It was a bust from day one. Next day, John comes to the hotel.
Get your stuff, move!
With a very different attitude.
Now!
He said, get your stuff, we're leaving.
Move! Whoa. We are leaving now!
No asking.
Now!
It wasn't time yet to go to the airport.
Doesn't matter, get your stuff.
We still had hours to go. We don't have the stuff packaged up on us.
Now!
Get your stuff, we're leaving. We got scared. At that point in time, it was an immediate click of this is totally different than what we were expecting. He put the bag of cocaine in the taxi. All four of us got in the cab. He took his own car. Not one word was spoken to the taxi driver. He just drove. The trip from the hotel, you're watching yourself progress into something that's spinning out of control. And it's slowly but surely getting worse and worse. And now you're pulling off a paved road to a semi-paved road. You see a chicken run across the street. And now we're going into an environment where this is ghetto. The slums in Brazil are vicious. I didn't want to get out of the car because it was such a nasty looking neighborhood. It was so intense and so rushed that I had a sense of disbelief. We got out of the car and brushed us up into a room in the hotel. The taxi driver stayed outside the hotel the whole time and was going to be taking us to the airport. That's where we all made it clear to each other that we were now very nervous and very scared. It was just get yourself packed up and ready. I did the taping. We put it under each arm and taped it onto each leg. The most nerve-wracking and scariest part of it was John wasn't saying anything. It was probably the most nervous silence that I've ever felt. And nobody said anything. He was now in drug trafficker, I'm the boss mode. It was time for them to tape it onto me. And I didn't put it up under my arms, I just had it on my legs. I wore a pair of shorts just so I didn't look as conspicuous, because I only had it on my legs, so why is a guy in shorts gonna be strapping drugs to his legs? To me, you couldn't tell that we're anything out of the normal. Now that this stuff is now taped onto my body, it was like when you lock a door. Reality is I'm now packed up with a ton of cocaine. The whole time in the car, there was not one word spoken between us. Not one. There was a very foul sense of what was happening. This was big time. This was it. We're now on the way.
Want more Locked Up Abroad in your life? Introducing Wondery Plus. Wondery Plus is the only place to get exclusive access to unreleased audio content, including an unaired interview I did with Billy Hayes. He was featured in our first episode, and there's going to be much more. With Wondery Plus, you'll hear stories you can't hear anywhere else. Wondery Plus is also home to behind-the-scenes looks at our show, scripts, and even more. Visit Wondery.com/plus to continue to experience Locked Up Abroad and to get your first 30 days free. That's Wondery.com/PLUS. Don't miss out on all the exclusive content your ears can take. Sign up today.
When we arrived at the airport, the taxi driver opened the door for us. He didn't leave. He stayed there until we were all the way in and the doors were closed in the airport. We got to the airport 3 hours before our flight. I can't say that we look like just the average person walking through the airport, because I truly don't know. But we did our best to blend in and do whatever we needed to try to not get caught. We were trying to act like nothing was happening, that we were just like the rest of everybody else in the airport, but we weren't. 2 hours to go. Went to a restaurant and sat down and ordered some burgers. Tried to eat them and just act normal. I thought we were. We were definitely nervous. Definitely scared. Maybe looking back on it, trying to blend in too much. The drugs, I definitely knew the drugs were on our body.
Don't make it obvious, man.
You have to adjust it every now and then because the tape would pull on your hair, and if you were to adjust, you tried to do it as inconspicuous as possible to try to make it look like just nothing. Conversation kind of got struck up about, maybe we should just get rid of this stuff.
Dude, you can't, don't. Just sit down, okay? Sit down!
This is now into a very crazy situation that we had no control of. You first think, get rid of it, but then you start to realize that you can't get rid of this stuff. There's no possible way. It was now just 1 hour before our flight was due to go. You're counting, looking at your watch, counting to when your flight's gonna leave, when you have to go in through the customs area. It was very real, and it was very scary. It came time that our flight was gonna be leaving, and we had to be getting through the passport area to where you leave the country. We decided to get in line separately. Guy and Sebastian, myself and Julio. As we're in line, I noticed a lot of people in suits. Silky, nice-looking Italian suits. More and more of them were around, and this is all obviously because you're in the federal police area where they're gonna stamp you, but there was just too many of these guys. They all look the same. Now that I look at it, they were police officers. Standing in line, we were keeping an eye on each other. So out of my peripheral vision, I was able to see Guy and noticed that one of the police officers was walking straight towards him. The only feeling that I can describe is being knocked out or losing consciousness. He got right up next to Guy and put his hand on his shoulder and tapped him right under his arm, exactly where the drugs were. The surprise in Guy's face was kind of like, I don't understand. I knew right then and there we were done. It was almost like passing out. It goes black, just like a black. Sebastian was next to Guy. You come too? You take that deep breath and go, are they gonna come to me next? I was hoping they didn't know I was American too. And this was all within seconds. And then again, it could have been 5 years. I wouldn't have known the difference in time at that point. It was over. That was it. It was a very scary thing. I knew we were in trouble. I didn't know if we could ever go home. I felt my dad. I knew I was gonna break his heart with doing what I did. Yeah, I thought of my dad. I thought a lot about my dad and how in God's name am I gonna tell him? How am I gonna call him and tell him what I did? We weren't believing what was actually happening, that this was actually taking place, that a few weeks before, I was telling some guy, yeah, and now I'm going to prison for it.
You take off your shirt.
Guy lifted up his shirt and took it off. It was right there.
Take off your shirts.
But I took off my shirt, and I didn't have any drugs under my arms. I was hoping maybe, I don't have it. Put your shirt back on and you can go ahead and go, but you guys gotta stay. Until they said, take off your pants. I didn't want to take them off.
You want me to take them off for you?
You're seeing millimeter by millimeter, vividly, as I'm pulling down my pants. You get down to a certain level and all of a sudden the tape shows. And then it's down to the ankles and you're just standing there with a bunch of cops looking at you and the glow in their eyes about what they had just succeeded to do. It was a deathfully frightening experience. They pretty much walked us through the airport, handcuffed, with everybody looking at you. I don't think that there was one person that didn't look at us. We left the airport and went to the federal police station with all the drugs still on our body. When we arrived at the federal police station in downtown São Paulo, they let us know that there was no room or no cells available. We would have to be locked in the elevator.
In there.
Yes.
This is unreal.
They let us into the elevator, closed the doors, dropped us down in between two floors, and left all four of us in there. Common knowledge is my dad's an attorney. First thing that was out of their mouths was,
You have to call your dad.
and the first thing out of my mouth was,
I'm not calling my pop.
my mind was made up that I was just basically going to disappear
I'm gone, okay? I'm disappeared.
and not know how long it was going to be for. I was not going to call my father. Period. After a few hours of being in the elevator, all of a sudden you hear the psh, and the elevator comes on and you'd rise up and the doors opened and they called us out to walk into the little laboratory-looking area. All these big desks and scales and chemicals to test things. They made us take off all of our clothes.
No.
Except underwear, obviously, thank God.
Vocês estão ferrados.
Proceeded to take about 10 to 15 pictures. The moment they removed the drugs was like removing 1,000,000 pounds off your shoulders. It was like getting rid of a devil that was attached to you. Very strange feeling, very uplifting. I knew we weren't getting away, but to have it finally away from me and away from my person it was a weight off my shoulders. It was very strange being locked up in an elevator for 2 days, in between two floors, not in a jail, smoked and smoked and smoked and smoked, until they took us out and said we're going to the federal police station. There's not a single word that can really fill in how I felt. Empty. Dead. I pretty much saw an end to life. I knew we were screwed. I knew things were gonna be real bad. I got the life scared out of me, not knowing what Brazilian prisons were like, period. Looking back on that, maybe I should have known before I decided to say yes. Pretty horrible place to think that you're gonna have to spend some time in. Mold everywhere and bugs flying around, cockroaches. It was like a very smelly, crowded cave. The other prisoners went all the way from Asians. There were a few Europeans, and there was plenty of Nigerians and Brazilians. The Nigerians
Welcome.
were the first ones to really speak with us about what we did, and since they're kind of the drug traffickers,
Why are you guys here for? Drugs. Yes.
they automatically had a kind of a tie with us.
You know what I mean?
Once we got to know the Nigerians, people didn't bother us after that. We were in jail for close to a week already, and the question now was, what are we going to do?
Look at this place.
Guy, Julio, and Sebastian were, you need to call your dad.
It's not an option.
I was still on that point of, I'm disappeared.
You have to call your dad.
I lied to my father where I was going. Now how am I going to tell him I'm in prison in Brazil? I knew the only person really that could help was my father.
Guard!
So I called my dad.
Dad?
The first thing out of his mouth was, "Why do you sound so far away?"
I'm not in San Diego.
I said, "Where the hell are you?"
I'm in prison in Brazil.
And silence. A lot of silence. It seemed like hours. It was probably 2 seconds. What's a father gonna say to his kid that's in another country in prison, let alone for drug trafficking? I'll be down there and get you. We'll be down there as soon as we can. I'm calling the American consulate right now and my friends. His words of advice to me were, "You're tough as nails. Suck it up. I'll be down there in a week, and don't let anything happen to you." A few days after, the Nigerians basically said that they were going to be escaping. They had taken care of one of the guards, and they had a bunch of tools, a bunch of hand drills and picks that somebody had brought in for them. They would slowly chip around the concrete. Day by day, that progressed, and they would keep it covered up with a poster. And the guards never ever came inside the cell really to check on anything. So they had all the time they wanted to create this hole. And the offer was put on the table. You guys want to do this with us? Everybody wanted to go. The night of the escape, there was the Nigerians were gonna supply food and drink for everybody in the jail. They made a big bucket of punch to drink with some food. And we were told not to drink it. It was gonna be mixed with sleeping medicine. And this was a very vivid memory. The atmosphere just became very relaxed because everybody was falling asleep. Literally, out of the 126 people, there was only about 25 or so, 30 people that were actually now awake. They pulled the poster off the wall. The moment the hole was open, it was like rats fleeing out of a sewer, one after the other. Boom, 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 boom. The thought in my mind was, run, 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 run.
Come on, Paulie. Run.
As fast and far as you can. I'm thinking, I'm gonna go home, I'm on my way. And I basically climbed up and stuck my head out of the hole and looked up, and there's the sky. There's the sky, there's no longer that rancid smell. Now I'm breathing fresh air outside and looking up at the sky, and there's freedom. It was that same beautiful smell of pollution. Gas cars mixed with alcohol burning cars with just that beautiful smell of tropical downtown São Paulo. It was there, it was within my reach, but no. The only thing that I could think about was,
We're not going.
if you run, you're gonna run the rest of your life. And it's not how my dad raised me. We did wrong. So, face your responsibility. Next morning after the escape, the door slamming open, and a rush of cops, realizing there had been an escape. 10 or 12 of them came in with these hard rubber and wooden billy clubs. It took a toll on me mentally just seeing what lays ahead now for maybe many more years. We've now firsthand experience of what the Brazilian prisons are like. I felt like I was in hell and wondered if I'd ever be able to see my family again. The next day, 5 or 6 guys were brought back that had been caught, and they came back in pretty bad shape from being beaten. These are guys that could barely even stand up. Now it was just survival mode. Live on a day-to-day basis now. Survive today, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We were taken from the federal prison to the courthouse. And so began the long judicial process. The attorney started speaking with the judge. Judge speaking to the attorney, but speaking with a very stern, very angry voice. You can tell that he was not one bit happy with who we are and what we were doing in his country. After the first court date, when our lawyer came back to see us, the judge basically right off the bat told him, I'm going to give them 25 years each. They're going to be made an example of.
You go back to them and you do better than that! Okay? You do better than that!
It was one of the scariest things that I've ever heard in my life, to possibly be getting 25 years in prison. I think it was a complete breakdown on everybody. Our souls dropped. Life was done. 5 or 6 days later, Diego, come here. And when I walked to the jail cell door, and I looked out, the first thing I saw was my pa. And I'll never forget the look on his face. It was like being born. Like seeing an angel, I guess. Just looking through the walls and seeing my dad there. He said he was coming, and he was there. He just gave me a hug. And we sat there for about 5 minutes without even talking. Slapped me. What the hell's wrong with you? And we're gonna get you out. to the last drop of my blood, you're gonna come home safe. I have a suitcase full of money. We'll figure it out. My father wasn't gonna pay a lot of money to have police officers give us tools to break a hole in the wall to run. Either you're paying and I'm walking out the front door and getting on the plane somewhere, or we've got to go about this the legal way. Obviously, the first choice was try to get us out with a bribe. Nothing ever came to fruition of that. And so the suitcase of money then became the lawyer's suitcase of money. Next court appearance, we are taken up to the courtroom and the evil judge is no longer there. Our attorney asked the old judge that if he could possibly be on vacation during our sentencing. He pretty much had to take a vacation. Let's just leave it at that. The new judge of our case was our attorney's student, and she is now a judge. She was in her first year of being a judge. There was no conversation between us, really. It was attorney, judge. We just took it for what it was, and 35, 40 minutes later, court was done, and our attorney said, okay, that's it. You guys got to go back to jail now. After 2 days of waiting, we were called. 25 years we knew was what they wanted to give us. It was a very tense moment for all of us. There was an uncertainty in the air. And the attorney's kind of smiling. So we look at him and say, what's the deal? And he says, I have news for you. We got your sentence. Right there you feel, now it's confirmed. Within the next few seconds, our fate is going to be sealed. And he looked up at us.
4 years, 6 months.
My thought was, this is Brazil. The amount of money that was given to you.
You should be getting us out. There should be a way of getting us out of jail.
He just looked us straight in the eye and said,
We're supposed to be there for 25 years.
I got you the minimum sentence possible. We were notified that we'd be transferred from the jail that we were at to Carandiru prison, the most dangerous, largest, most overpopulated prison in all of South America. Where 9 months prior, there was a massacre of 111 prisoners. I was scared because now we were going to the most notorious prison in South America. One of the first things that we noticed is passing Pavilion 9, which is where the massacre of 111 prisoners took place. It really became real that we were now in the worst place in South America. And not knowing really what lies ahead for us. As I was being checked in, they checked in another prisoner, and it was brought to everybody's attention that he was a child molester. The guards and the prisoners proceeded to put lipstick on him, put a dress on him, pierce his ears, put cigarettes out on his head, give him quite the working over. And I caught that firsthand as my first experience being booked into the Carandiru prison. Now you're running a lot of the risks of danger. You're in an open environment where there's almost no control. Who runs the jail is the prisoners, and the guards, they're just there to make sure that you don't walk out the front door. The prison was divided up into 4 different blocks. Pavilion 1 and 2, rapist, murderers, some child molesters. Pavilion 3, mass murderers, vigilantes, people that had killed numerous people. Pavilion 4, where we were sent to, police officers, common thieves, and few people with educations. I had no idea whatsoever what was in store. During summertime, a guy was playing soccer in the quad with other prisoners, and he was wearing a pair of white shorts. When he pretty much took a shower, the white shorts then became more like what you'd see in a wet t-shirt contest. He walked out of the shower and back into the quad, not knowing, and we got a lot of hooting and hollering. A lot of people made fun of him and got a little rambunctious. A couple days after this incident, a prisoner had walked by and made a comment about Guy's butt. You can't let something like that pass, because then you're now looked at as somebody that's not going to stand their ground. If it means hurting somebody or killing somebody, then that's the attitude that you have to have. Never any ever comment of us, of the wet shorts again, and nobody ever messed with us. The daily routine in prison, you look and you try to find things that occupy your time and your brain, because if not, you'll consistently think of freedom. I drew a lot. I read hundreds of books. I learned to speak Portuguese, lots of letter writing, lots of contemplating life and just generally where my life had been taken up to this point in time. What I learned in prison was no amount of money for freedom. Period. No. You couldn't give me $100 million to give up 1 day of freedom, 1 minute of freedom. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it at all. Am I a criminal? No. Punk? Without a doubt. I consider myself a person that made a very wrong decision and has learned from it. A few months after getting out, I was invited to a party at the beach where a friend of mine said there was going to be a bunch of Brazilians. I ended up going and meeting this beautiful Brazilian girl that a few months later I asked her to marry me, and her mom flew up to meet me. The first thing she said was, "How in the hell do you speak Portuguese so good?"
Thank you for listening to Locked Up Abroad. You don't want to miss a single episode, so subscribe today on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, the Wondery app on Android, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You'll find a link to subscribe on the episode notes. Simply tap or swipe over the cover art. You'll also see some great offers from our sponsors. Please support our show by supporting our sponsors. If you have a moment, I'd love for you to complete a small survey at Wondery.com/survey. Give us your ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts, and be sure to tell all your friends about our show. Locked Up Abroad was produced by Raw TV Limited for National Geographic Channels. For our audio adaptation, the editor is Sergio Enriquez. Our producer is Donna Himes. Our executive producers are Jeffrey Glazer and Hernan Lopez for Wondery.